Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. I am in Joe's truck. I call it a truck. Hang on. Somebody's parking right next to me and I have the windows open because there's no AC in here. Hang on. I don't know if that was a man or a woman. I could not tell. Yes, it's hot, but it's a little less humid today. And I'm at Walmart, and I'm like dying to do some kind of a car vlog, so I thought I would. And today is kind of a special day because it's August 7, and it was a year ago today that Joe and I began our journey of getting back together. We saw each other for the first time in a couple of months, and I really want to fill you guys in on so many things, how things happened, why things happened, but I stopped myself because there's so much to talk about and I don't know where to start. And I know there are plenty who don't like those kind of videos. That's your private life. That should stay private. And they especially don't like it when I bring other players into the mix. But then there are a lot of you who do. And I really do believe that I have things that I could share that might be helpful to others. So I don't know, like I said, where to start. I certainly can't talk about everything in one video, so I'm trying to think of what the best way is to start, just explaining things. I guess I can just do a little bit of a recap. I wish I could go through all my phone messages first because I, would remember more details, but last summer, I believe it was the beginning of May, Joe and I split up. But we did see each other here and there in May, and then it was just an all-out, no, this isn't working, and then we didn't see each other again. I do believe that I took him to a doctor appointment, though, at the very beginning of June, and that was the last time. So a couple times in May, an appointment in June, and it was the last straw for me because I couldn't commit. He wanted to be together, but I knew nothing had changed and I could not commit to a non-changed relationship. And so we parted ways and did not see each other for a solid 2 months. And like I said, only a couple times in May and not at all the rest of June. It was the very beginning of June, not in June, not in July. And then we saw each other for the first time August 7. Now during that time, there was periods, long periods, a few weeks that we didn't even text each other. There were times that I had him blocked so he couldn't reach out to me. And it was just all ups and downs. And on this day, which I consider almost like our second try anniversary, because it was August 7. I'm not going to bring in other parties in this video because I just want to talk about me and Joe right now. When we saw each other that first day, I went to pick him up. At this point, he had been in an accident. Somebody rear-ended him and it totaled his van. And so he was without a car at this point. And I went to get him. He was staying with an old woman friend. That's where he was staying at this point. He also had somebody else in the picture, but at this point, they were done. So I went to get him. He asked me if I would go to a meeting with him. And I said, yes, I will do that with you. I missed him so much, but I knew I was missing someone at the time who didn't really exist. I knew he existed because I saw a lot of that good stuff at the beginning, And I know I went through a period of thinking that he was just really narcissistic and that was never going to change. But the thing that always had me confused is that he was very empathetic. He had a lot of empathy, and narcissists have zero empathy. And, you know, he had tossed around words bipolar, you know, and post-traumatic stress, those kind of words. And I didn't really know what that all entailed. So I thought maybe some of that is playing into this. And so I picked him up. We went to a meeting, and I knew I wanted to continue seeing him at least a little bit. I did not see Rocket. I didn't want to see Rocket for a while until I knew what was going on. And so went to a meeting, and you know, off and on, we just saw each other. He stayed at that other woman's place in Memphis, so we weren't like right next to each other. And that played out for maybe a couple of months. And there were times that he stayed over, and he did eventually, not too long after I had that first meetup with him, he got this vehicle. So he was able to come and see me, and he would stay some nights, and then he would just go back. I would tell him, no, I need my space. So, you know, until I see changes, and I'm sure there's changes, he had no key, and I would go out on my own, and it was nice. It was nice. And then what happened, oh my God, I'm so hot, is on his own, he told me that he wanted to go to treatment for his mental health. It had nothing to do with any kind of relapse with drinking or drugging. It was for his mental health. And I said, if you want to do that, I'll support that, and I will take care of Rocket for you. And so he did it. He set it up on his own. He asked if I would go with him to bring him, to sign him in and all that stuff. And I did that with him, and it happened. For some reason, I can't remember. We went and spent a couple hours there, and I was helping with paperwork and, you know, dates and things like that. And then he couldn't go in that night, or they would have taken him, but he needed to do something or whatever. I can't remember. So I know I took him home with me. They said that he had to have somebody because he had admitted to wanting to harm himself, you know, things like that. So I signed paperwork saying that I would be responsible for him that night. The man that I didn't know if he was a man or a woman is a man. I can tell now, and he's with a woman, so I'm assuming that's his wife, old couple. So I signed saying that I would be responsible for him, and that I would see to it that he would remain safe, and that I would call an ambulance immediately if anything came up. So, yeah, I can't remember why he couldn't just go in that night. I don't remember. Anyway, so I did that, and then brought him back the next day. And I just, again, maybe I'll figure that out along the way, but I do remember that I had to sign paperwork that I was going to be responsible for him. And the next day we went back, and he had to go through a lot of that paperwork again, not having to fill it out, but we had to answer all the questions again to make sure there was no changes from the night before. And so he went in, and he was there for like, I don't remember, four days, something like that. And then he had meds. And when he came out, I could tell there was a difference. There was just a difference. And then he stayed in daily outpatient for several months. And then he switched over to a couple times a week. And also they wanted him to get a counselor one-on-one, a therapist. So he did that. And that was all working, and then it dwindled down at the treatment center. He just didn't care for that as much as he liked his one-on-one therapy, so he ended up dropping that. Then we ended up getting couples therapy, so like he would see his regular therapist, and then together we would see another therapist. And that was because I needed to work on how to handle somebody who is bipolar. Now, we just recently dropped all the therapy. The couples therapy wasn't, he wasn't really talking as much. It was mostly me, and so I knew he just wasn't comfortable. I really thought it would be better if we could have had some sessions alone with the couples therapist, because I've done that before with my husband a long time ago when I was with him, when he was alive. And so the therapist could freely hear what I wanted to say and freely hear what he wanted to say, and then maybe she could come up with some kind of a game plan. But she wouldn't do that. We had to be together, and that was it. And so I didn't really feel like it was going anywhere. And then he was getting bored, and he does not want to stop. He says, I don't want to stop therapy, but I would like to find somebody else. He says, because she's just repeating the same things over and over again. And he said, I want to talk about bipolar more, and she just doesn't bring that up. And when I want to talk about it, she just changes the subject. So I said, okay, this is good. He still wants to go. So now we're going to try to get him a therapist at his psychiatric place. They have a network of therapists, and that's right here in Hernando. He had a psychiatrist that was so far away, and he said she was a nutcase. She took a call, I think it's funny, while he was in her office, and she was swearing during the phone call. I mean, I just think that's kind of funny, but and he thought it was bizarre that she would be using the F word on a phone call while he's in the room. That just, to me, wasn't professional. I don't know, who she was talking to, but oh my God, I'm going to have to stop. And that's probably good, because it's not going to make me say, like, I talked too much. Okay, so the psychiatrist is here in Hernando. We're going to try to get somebody here in Hernando, and then that's all going to be good. And I'm going to ask if they can have somebody who will let me sit in on some meetings if I have issues that I want to discuss. He's really good at learning tools. He likes tools. I like tools. He's just not good at talking about it, and I'm a fucking open book. So so over the past year, I think we might have had 2 incidences where one was a little bit more major than the other, and both, I believe, were one, he had missed meds. He was still staying at that other woman's place, and I believe he missed meds 2 different nights. This is after treatment, but he was still staying there. I didn't want him to stay with me even after treatment, not full time. We took our time with that before he got a key and before he started, living back in the apartment. So he was going back and forth still. And he said I can talk about his bipolar episodes. He's very comfortable with that. He likes people to learn shit from his experiences. He just can't talk about it because he doesn't remember anything that he did or said. So let me talk about that in the next video. I will tell you, there was an experience way at the beginning. I don't want to get into all of that one yet, but I'll tell you about one that he had when he missed meds for a couple of days. And then we had one other very quick incident, and other than that, it's been really, really good. Now, I've had to learn a lot, and I want to talk about that too. I am such a different person, and I am thankful for Joe, for us getting back together and me being able to learn so much, because I got and read everything that the treatment center gave me about bipolar, and I also got to learn so much more from his doctors about the other things that he has going on. One, his diabetes. The high sugar is where he can act bipolar, and maybe it's a mix, but he can get how do I say it, when his sugar's very low, he's like a little kitten. You guys have even seen it. I've shown you and I've told you things he says. when his sugar is high, he can get manic. He can get, I'm not going to say mean. I don't want people to think he's mean. He still talks in a calm way, but he'll say really, you know, sometimes outrageous things, and it's hard to distinguish if it's his high levels or if it's bipolar, or maybe it kicks in both things. I don't know. But he can get he's more irritated. He's more aggravated when his sugar's high. It's not calm. It's just not like Happy Joe who wants to tell me funny things that he thinks are serious, like, you know, just the stuff that he says when he sleeps and stuff. I think that those are so funny and cute. And I do have a couple more of those. All right, so let's stop here. So the next video, I will tell you about one of his episodes. And that one was because he had skipped meds. I do believe that one was purely bipolar. And I'll explain that to you. And all right, so just know things are good. And I have learned so much. I feel so much better. I went from a highly anxious attachment type personality. Go look those personality types up. Attachment personalities. I don't know. Anxious attachment. Avoidant attachment. There's others, but those are the ones that I have the most experience with. And Joe is also anxious attachment. So we were both anxious attachment, which is kind of okay in some ways, but then it can still be just two people who are constantly suffering because they're anxious all the time about the relationship. I am no longer anxious attachment. Everything that I've been through and the experiences that I had with the few guys that I got to know really helped me, and Joe was the icing I needed on the cake. So I am not anxious attached anymore. Now, could I be with somebody who would make me feel anxious attached again, would bring that back out in me? I don't know. I don't care. And I don't worry about if I'm going to be with Joe or not. It's almost like AA, one day at a time, but it's been a lot of days in a row with, I think, just 2 exceptions, and one was minor. So, all right, and the other one was okay too. It's just that, you know, I knew better how to handle it. I handled it better, so I'll tell you about that one next video. All right, thank you so much for watching. I can't do car vlogs until I get a car. I finally looked at one yesterday, just yesterday, and I'm wondering why that door is open. I don't know. Is there anybody in there? Anyway, I will be getting a car at some point, but I'm in no hurry. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more soon. Bye, and I won't be sweating, I hope.